and just to be a good steward of your time, we're going to go ahead and get started. I met most of all of you last month, but just in case if this is your first time on the Healthy Church Academy Zoom, my name is Amy Ezel, and I am the Director of Connectional Ministries for the Arkansas Conference of the United Methodist Church. And we are so glad to have you. And I can't ever go without offering our thanks to the Methodist Foundation for Arkansas, who has made this happen through a very generous grant. So we are very grateful for our Methodist Foundation for Arkansas as well. I had asked earlier that if you can, if you're able to share, you can see in the chat, just share what church you are with. And because we can see your names on your little Brady Bunch block, but we don't know what church you attend. So if people would share what church you attend in the chat, that's always fun. I'm going to go ahead and just a little different tonight. I'm going to read a prayer that was shared this morning by one of our district superintendents this morning. Reverend Roy Beth Kelly. She's our Northwest District Superintendent, and she shared this with our cabinet this morning, and it is from a Black Rock prayer book, and it's actually an Episcopalian priest has written this prayer book, and the prayer is just lovely and so applicable for the times we are in. So, will you join me in prayer? A blessing. The world is now too dangerous and too beautiful for anything but love. May your eyes be so blessed you see God in everyone. Your ears so you hear the cry of the poor. May your hands be so blessed that everything you touch is a sacrament. Your lips so you speak nothing but the truth with love. May your feet be so blessed you run to those who need you. And may your heart be so opened to set on fire that your love changes everything. Amen. And now I am going to officially welcome you. So glad that you all are here this evening. And I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Dr. Bell. We're so glad to have you back.
Well, it is good to be with each of you this evening. And what a beautiful prayer.
Indeed.
What a beautiful prayer. Absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen and then we're going to start in a different place tonight. I was talking to Reverend Amy earlier, and I was telling her that, the intention of tonight was to deal with kind of the theological underpinnings of our emotions and to look at um, how Jesus manifested emotions, using emotions, and how historically emotions came to be known. And we'll get there. We'll probably deal with that next month. That'd be a good way to go into Thanksgiving, being with family. But given all the craziness going on, uh, I wanted to back up just a minute and talk to us and spend time this evening looking at how do we regulate our systems, and specifically, how has God graced us and gifted us to use grace itself to help regulate us. And so tonight, we're going to be dealing with just different tools and tricks and tips for just how to regulate in the midst of anxiety, in the midst of pressure, in the midst of uncertainty, just how to deal with all the stuff going on. And so I'm excited about this presentation and just the opportunity for conversation that it may open up. So usually I start with a story. I love stories. You'll see them in a book, but this time I wanted to start with a scripture. And it's a moment that happens in Exodus, the 14th chapter. You all know this particular moment. This is the moment where Moses is literally standing at the Red Sea and nothing has happened yet. Right? This is the moment when Pharaoh's army is racing towards him. The children of Israel, the Hebrews, are, standing behind him, complaining in fear. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And Moses is standing there at the Red Sea, and nothing has happened yet. And so in Exodus, the 14th chapter, Moses, not knowing what to do, begins to cry out, God, do you see them coming? Do you see, the enemy, coming after us? Do you see the people? You told me, you told us to come here, and yet we're here and nothing is happening. And so God speaks in the 15th verse of Exodus 14. And when God speaks in the 15th and 16th verse of Exodus 14, what God says to Moses is lift up your staff and stretch out your hand. Lift up your staff and stretch out your hand. A couple things are happening in this moment. From a neurological perspective, from a physiological perspective, from a prophetic perspective, and from a historical perspective. So let's just deal with a few of those, right? Let's deal with the physiological perspective. When we experience trauma, we contract. It's natural, right? Our brain puts us in defense mode. And so we contract to protect our vital organs because, as you'll see in just a bit, our brain is telling our body to send our blood to our extremities so we can prepare to fight, flight, or freeze, right? So we contract as a way of protection when we find ourselves in moments of conflict and moments of trauma. It is a natural response to contract, to get small, right? And so when you stretch, the very action of stretching is called parasympathetic activation. Parasympathetic activation. When you stretch, what you're doing is you're releasing endorphins in your body and telling your brain to tell your body that this is a safe place. You think about when you stretch in the morning or you stretch at night, right? That very act of stretching is telling your body, your brain is telling your body, this is a safe place. You can relax, you can regulate, you can calm down. And so, from a physiological perspective, what God was saying to Moses was, relax, lift your staff, stretch out your hand, relax. I got this, right? If I brought you this far, right, I've got a plan for you. I can take you farther, right? Relax, calm down. So, from a physiological perspective, that's what God was saying. From a historical perspective, we know that the staff represents authority, right? Pharaoh had a staff, shepherds have a staffs, kings have scepters and staff, right? And so God was saying, lift up the authority, right? Who's the authority in this moment? When it seems like we're surrounded by the enemy, when it seems like all heck is broken loose, we have to remind ourselves who's in charge. God's in charge. So lift up the staff, lift up what the authority is, right? Stretch out the hand. You all know from church, when you stretch out your hand, you're praying, you're covering, you're decreeing and declaring, right? And so God is saying from that perspective, what are you decreeing and declaring? What are you praying over? Even in the midst of what we're experiencing, how are you praying? How are you asserting who has authority? And so this moment there at the Red Sea that God allows Moses to endure, to experience, right? Because here's the reality. God could have just, the second they showed up, God could have just separated the waters and they ran over and it would have been a done deal. But God allowed this moment, right? And so there's meaning in this moment. And I wanted to start here because what I want to say is that even the moment we exist in right now as a people, as believers, right, as people of faith in this moment, uh, God has allowed it, and so there is a purpose and there's a reason for us to be in this moment. And so when you understand all that God gives to us in terms of grace, in terms of tools, in terms of resilience practices, right? That to be able to stretch and to lift, to be able to pray and to call on the authority, all those things help us not only to make it through this moment, but the beauty in the text is not just that Moses was able to do it and the water separated. The beauty in the text is that because Moses did it, not only was Moses rescued and saved, but everybody that was behind Moses, in terms of the Hebrews, the children of Israel, were also rescued and saved. And to me, when we think about the importance of regulating our systems, right? Of calming down, of learning how to endure and engage in this moment, to me, that's the beauty of what this text provides, because it's a reminder that if we can get it together, right? Then everyone who's watching us and everyone who's following us and everyone that we're connected to will also have that same ability because we're beginning that pattern. I heard this piece this morning that talked about the importance of fresh soil, right? Good soil versus toxic soil, right? And it was saying that when good soil, fruit can bloom, can blossom, can grow. But in toxic soil, nothing can bloom, nothing can blossom, nothing can grow. And so the importance is not to focus on the fruit, but to focus on the soil, right? How do we make sure we're good soil? Right, and there's irrigation in there, there's aerating in there, there's nutrients in there. How do we make sure we're doing all those things that keep us as good soil so that we can handle whatever comes? And so I hope this is helpful just as a beginning as we talk about the importance of regulation, as we talk about the importance of being able to sustain yourself in this moment. Know that God has already given us tools, right? Lift your staff, stretch out your hand, right? Know that God is the authority. Know that God has given us scripture and prayer and power even in the midst of this, right? Use that parasympathetic activation to become unstuck, right? So that those who are following and watching and coming alongside you are able to make it to where God is calling each of you. So I hope that's helpful. What I want to deal with again, this idea of grace. We talked just a minute ago about trauma's impact on the brain and what happens when we experience trauma, right? When we experience trauma or conflict. There are all kinds of ways to break down your brain. We dealt with, I believe we dealt with last time we were together, the three basic pieces of your brain: the fight, flight, or freeze, which is your mammalian, your limbic system, which is where your emotions are, and your prefrontal cortex, which is where your ability to reason and think critically are, right? Those are the three basic regions of your brain. But another way to look at that is your lower brain versus your higher brain. Your lower brain would be your limbic system and below. So your fight, flight, or freeze, your limbic system, and your amygdala, which sits right on top of your limbic system. Right. And the reason why it's important to recognize your amygdala is because your amygdala is kind of like the fire alarm of your brain. Your amygdala, when your amygdala senses trauma, your amygdala is what activates all the stuff, the emotions, the reactivity, the all that stuff. Your amygdala is the part of your brain that when it gets triggered, sends signals to everything else, right? So again, at the limbic system is where the emotions are. Your amygdala, when triggered, tells the limbic system, oh, you got to cry, or oh, you got to be in fear. Right. And when your amygdala gets triggered, if your mammalian is where your fight, flight, or freeze is, then your amygdala tells your fight, flight, or freeze to, oh, you got to fight, you got to freeze. Right. So your amygdala is the fire alarm system of your brain. It's looking for what's negative. It's looking for what's wrong. It's looking for trauma so that it can be activated. Your higher brain, again, is where your prefrontal cortex is. And in your prefrontal cortex, that's where your bronchial function is, where you're able to use language. That's where your memory function is, your ability to reason. All of those things are in your prefrontal cortex, right? And so there's this battle between your lower brain and your higher brain, right? When we experience trauma, what our amygdala wants to do is take over and disconnect us from our higher brain. And so part of the reason that we stop breathing, right, is because our brain knows that the oxygen is like fuel for our neurons and will push us into our higher brain. And so you'll recognize that if a bear jumped out the closet, or if something crazy happened, if you're in a meeting and somebody says something off the wall, you'll notice that immediately you'll do something like, right? You'll hold your breath. You'll Right, right. And sometimes you'll be in meetings, you'll be in places, and somebody is talking um, that you don't necessarily care for, and you won't realize it, but you're not breathing, right? And the reason I know that's true is because you'll be in the meeting, and all of a sudden you'll go, right? It's because your lungs had to get some breath because you were sitting there holding your breath. What you need to know is that when you're holding your breath, when you're not breathing, you're not giving your brain the oxygen it needs, which is the fuel it needs to get out of that amygdala, to get out of that lower brain, to get to your higher brain. And so you get stuck in this cycle of reactivity, this cycle of fight, flight, or freeze, this cycle of emotion on top of emotion. You get stuck in that place because you're not breathing, and your amygdala loves it. Your amygdala wants to stay in charge all the time. Your amygdala would love if you never get to your prefrontal cortex. Your amygdala does not want you to think critically about anything. Doesn't want you to reason, doesn't want you to be rational. Your amygdala just wants you to be reactive. And so you've got to fight, you got to breathe. You got to do your routines, your exercises to get through that so that you can get to your higher brain where you can reason, use memory, use language to make better decisions, right? And so that becomes the challenge of how you work your brain. Let me just pause right there. That's a lot of information. Let me just pause right there. Any thoughts or comments just around how your brain works when it comes to trauma? I can't see the chat, so if there's something in the chat, you gotta let me know. But any thoughts or comments just around this piece around your brain and how your brain experiences trauma or questions? No? Okay. Listen, if y'all got it, let's go.
But there
Hey,
is one thing, there's another F in like pop psychology, and that's fawn. Fight,
yes,
freeze, fawn. Wait.
yes, yes, yes. Fawn. Fawn is when you almost take affinity towards uh what's oppressing or scaring you. Right, right. And that's a newer concept, but it certainly is real. It certainly is real. You're right, 100% right. Thank you for that. So, given what we experience in terms of trauma, what I wanted to do is to use the creation narrative to help give us some tools to how to regulate our system. And the reason I'm using the creation narrative is because that's the beginning. And so if there's any place that we're gonna get some tools for regulation, it's in the beginning, right? And so we're gonna look at each day as keys or tools for us being able to regulate our system. Okay. So we'll start with day one. And listen, there's a test at the end. So pay attention. Pay attention. Because there's going to be a test. All right. So on day one, Genesis 1 and 3, God said, let there be light. Here's what neuroscientists have found is that light activates regions of your brain that promote alertness, that improve cognitive performance, and that treat depression. And so one of the things that we've seen is that a lot of times when we begin to feel sad or begin to feel depressed or begin to feel overwhelmed or begin to feel, have all those emotions begin to bubble, sometimes we don't necessarily need therapy. We don't necessarily need, medication. Sometimes all we really need to do is turn the light on. You're in the dark, right? There are some office spaces for many of us, especially in older churches, where it's dark, right? And so you wonder why you don't like going there. You wonder why you feel a certain way when you're in there. Part of it is because it's literally dark, and without light, those activations aren't happening, right? Your brain is having to do extra work. And so what God says, number one, turn the light on, right? Let there be light. Again, light promotes that alertness. It promotes that cognitive performance, and it treats that depression, right? When I'm doing work, consulting with others or pastors or leaders or churches, I'm always critical about where we do the consultation at. I'm always critical about the space itself because I want to make sure there's real light coming through the windows, right? I want to make sure that we're not in a dark space, right? All of that stuff is super critical and simple, but super critical and around helping us to regulate our systems. Yeah. Yeah. When we were living in Minnesota, I was pastoring St. Paul, or I was pastoring in St. Paul, pastoring Camp Memorial United Methodist Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. During the winter, as you all know, it gets dark early and it stays dark long, right? And so there were a lot of indoor parks and indoor planetariums and places in Minnesota that you could go where literally it was like light therapy, where it was super bright. They had plants there. They had, in fact, roller coasters in some places. And so we would intentionally take our kids there during the winter just to keep their energy up, just to keep them from feeling depressed or feeling left out. And so light is critical. That's day one. Day two, God said, Genesis 1, verses 8, God called the vault sky. Again, fresh air raises the oxygen levels in your brain, which increases serotonin levels. As we talked about just a few minutes ago, when you're not breathing, your brain is not getting the fuel it needs in order to move those neurons out of that amygdala, out of that lower brain, right? Oxygen literally raises the level in your brain and increases your serotonin level. The difference between dopamine and serotonin, because you'll hear both of those words. Dopamine is like a hit, right? Like if you smelled, I mean, I don't know what you're into, but if I smelled some freshly baked chocolate chip cookies, right? Something in my brain goes, "Oh yeah." Right. Something inside says, "Oh yeah." Right. Especially if they got peanut butter in it. Ooh, something in my already just telling y'all, I'm already salivating from peanut butter and chocolate chip cookies. Right. That's dopamine. That's a hit. Right. Right. And as quickly as it comes, it goes. Serotonin is like drinking a hot tea or a hot coffee on a cold day, right? It impacts your entire of being from top to bottom, right? So serotonin is very different than dopamine. Dopamine is a hit. Serotonin impacts your entire body, right? And so when we're breathing, when we're getting fresh air, when we're going outside, we're increasing the serotonin levels in our body, right? We're increasing those levels so that we can feel better. So again, sometimes the answer to some of the things that we're wrestling with is to simply go outside and breathe, to get some fresh air, right? To not get stuck and not get pigeonholed in what feels like trauma, what feels like conflict. One of the things, there's a lot of studies right now, and many of you all can attest to this. There's a lot of studies right now about the impact of Zoom and Zoom meetings on our brains. There's a lot of studies going on right now because what they're finding in terms of neuroscience again is that sitting staring at a screen and staring at other boxes with just people's faces directly, faces, sitting tight behind a laptop in a dark room, in a dark space, and doing that for hours on end is not healthy for our brains or for our bodies. And they're seeing that a lot of people who work from home, a lot of people who do meetings all day, in screens, they're finding in research that there's a higher level of anxiety and burnout simply because our brains can't handle all of this stimulant, and none of the oxygen, right? So we're not going outside. We're not, getting fresh air. We're not turning the light on. We're not doing some of the other stuff that we'll discuss, but instead we're stuck in these screens and stuck behind this, and it's causing anxiety. It's causing burnout because our brains just can't handle all this stimulant. And so again, what folk are saying, what the research is showing, is that, if and listen, this is the how they say it, the pot calling, this is the pot calling the kettle, right, because I'm in meetings all day, and most of them are on Zoom or on some kind of platform, via, but being able to pause, to take 10 minutes to go outside and breathe, being able to, walk around the building if it's the church, or, walk around the block and come back, being able to spread stuff out, all of those things are critical in order to regulate our system. When we're just boom, 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 our brains literally cannot handle all of that stimulant at once. And so we begin to get tired. We begin to get snarky. Let me use that word. We begin to get a little, little hot-headed, right? Right. It's because our brains are done. We've overwhelmed the system. And so fresh air helps to relieve that, helps to get serotonin into the body, helps us to be able to calm down. All right, so that's 2 days. That's 2 days. Now, if you have a question or comment, even as I'm going, please stop me, interrupt me. Again, I want this to be a conversation, and not just me talking. So if you got something to add to the conversation, please feel free. Your voice is needed and welcomed. Okay. So that's day two. That's day two. God calls the sky, or calls the vault sky. It's important. It's important for us to have fresh air because it increases the oxygen levels, which increases serotonin in our system. All right. Day three. This is my favorite day. My favorite day. Day three,
Dr.
Genesis
Bell,
1. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say
Uh-huh.
real quick, just we were talking about the serotonin thing as far as it really is what you said kind of is a physical, just makes you feel well. It also makes sense when people say just take a deep breath. You
Yes.
have to calm down, just take a deep breath because that's actually
Yes.
doing two things. It's probably the mental part of being calm, and it's also
Hmm.
actually helping your brain take that breath. So we were just made me think of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me just add this. If you're not breathing, you're not thinking. And so telling someone to take a deep breath is inviting them into a different level of thinking around whatever the experience or problem is. Right. And so whereas it may come off as intrusive, it may come off as, any kind of thing. When you invite folk to breathe, it changes the whole dynamics. Whole dynamic. What I've learned to do, now are you Molly or Carol?
I'm Molly.
You're Molly. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What I've learned to do, Molly, uh, is breathe with people, right? And so sometimes I'm doing consultations with people who are clearly not breathing. And I can tell because it's that shallow, reactive breath. They're talking fast. Everything is sped up. They're jittery, all that kind of stuff. And so what I've learned to do when I'm in conversation with folk like that is that I will literally slow down my responses. And the more I slow down my responses and the more I breathe, the more they do.
Yeah.
Right. And
Sense,
so
right?
we end up breathing together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Anybody else? Any thoughts or comments just around those two pieces? Okay, so day three is my favorite day, right? Day three, Genesis 1 and 10. Uh, God called the ground dirt. Now you might not be familiar with this terminology, but you are familiar with its properties, right? Mycobacterium vacuum, right, is an antidepressant microbe that's found in dirt. What scientists have literally found is that playing in dirt, getting your hands in dirt, there are microbes in dirt that impact your emotions, that can regulate your system, can literally calm you down. And the reason why I say you knew this without knowing this is because if I asked Karen right now, you got $10 million, where do you want to go? I guarantee you she's gonna say a beach. Right? Right? Am I right? Am I right? Right? You want to get your feet in the sand. You want to lay out in the sun. Think about those things. Right? What's happening there? That's that Genesis 1, right? The sun, the sand, right? Right? If your grandparents or your great aunts and uncles were like my great aunts and uncles and grandparents, right? You could always find them in the backyard, in the garden, right? And they were always planning something or checking on, right? And they were always calm, right? And so we didn't know why, but now we know it was because of the microbes in the dirt, right? That those microbes are antidepressant microbes. And so, when we get our hands in the dirt, get our feet in the dirt, we're literally regulating and calming down our system, right? So again, when you are experiencing trauma, when you are experiencing chaos, just go get dirty. Go just go. If you got a pastor and they stressed out, just tell your pastor tomorrow, Dr. Bell said, go get dirty.
I
Explain.
think, I think, Dr. Bell, if you think of kids who like to play in the mud, you will never see a toddler having a meltdown playing in mud or splashing in
Absolutely.
water. They are having the times
Absolutely.
of their lives, and it's the adults who want to have a
Yes.
meltdown because you're covered in dirt. Oh my God. Like I
Yes.
have to clean you
Yes.
up. But I personally like to pick weeds. It's
Mm,
just, and I don't like dust on my fingers, but I take great comfort in playing in the dirt, like just to pick weeds in my mother's garden.
yeah.
I'm pulling,
Yeah.
weeds, and I'm actually at the beach right now. I'm taking time to do this. So you weren't far off.
Listen,
I'm in
that's
I'm in Mexico
confirmation.
at the beach. So
That's confirmation right
I
there,
am
right
good.
there.
Yes, yes.
But that's just and I love that analogy. I'm going to be using that. You've never seen a mad kid play in mud, right? They're all they're always happy, right? Because again, it's those microbes that are antidepressant. And I want you to think about how the systems we set up lead us further and further away from the things that can actually really heal us, right? All of the meetings and all of the rooms and all of the spaces, when if we could just go outside, build some things, play with some things, get some fresh air, right? All those kinds of pieces can help to heal and regulate our system. I heard an amazing quote the other day. It's not mine, and I can't remember who said it, but the quote was, the further up the ladder we go, the further away from what grounds us we are. The further up the ladder we go, the further away from what grounds us we are. And I think about that in terms of how we do ministry, how we do leadership, how we do business, that the more pieces we add on to do and to go, even how we organize our day, right? I've got 10 things to do, 12 things, 14, 15. The more we do that, the further away from what grounds us we are. And so it's important to get back down to the ground. to get your hands and your feet in some dirt, so that you can begin to regulate your system. Yeah. All right, so that's day 3. Day 4, sunlight, specifically sunlight, not just being out of the dark, but specifically sunlight. Sunlight increases vitamin D, serotonin, and nitric oxide, right? Sunlight, literally getting in the sun. So again, day 1 was about getting out of the dark, right? This is about literally getting in the sun. Sometimes, again, when we are feeling stress, when we are feeling depression, when we are feeling all those, trauma, all those challenges, sometimes literal direct sunlight will help to restore us emotionally, right? That vitamin D that we can only get from the sun, right, increases our serotonin, increases that nitric oxide in our system, in our blood, helps it to flow more fluently, and all those pieces impact how we feel. And so God says in Genesis 1 and 16, God set them in the sky to give light on the earth, right? So literal sunlight impacts us. And there's all kinds of studies out there around sunlight. But I mean, from your own experiences, just the impact of direct sunlight. And so that becomes critical. Okay, I lied. I said day 3 was my favorite. Day 6 is my favorite. Or this is day 5. Genesis 1 and 21. So God created the great creatures, right? On the 5th day, God created all of the creatures. And so my interpretation of this was food, right? So the importance the the importance of food, right? There was a study done in 1950, a human starvation study. Couldn't be done today, but they had taken men who had just come back from war, and they put them in this house, and they wanted to see the impact. These were psychologists, wanted to see the impact of what would happen if they did not feed them. If they literally starved them, just to see what happened, and wrote a book about it. The book is called The Biology of Human Starvation, right? And so what they discovered was that when these men hadn't eaten over several weeks and some months, there was a significant increase in depression, a significant increase in hysteria, and severe emotional distress. By simply just not eating, these men begin to experience all of these things. What, what I want you to realize about this is what happens is that the brain thinks it's in survival mode, right? The brain thinks it's in severe trauma. So that amygdala is going crazy, right? And so all of that produces the depression, produces the hysteria, produces the severe emotional distress. And so sometimes just eating something, eating well, can help to regulate our system. One of the interesting things about how our body is wired chemically is that 90% of our serotonin, I told you earlier, serotonin is like the feel good hormone. 90% of your serotonin is created in your gut. 90%, meaning what you eat literally impacts how you feel. And so when I don't eat well, when I'm eating bad food or food that's not good for me, when I'm eating heavy food, when I'm eating high cholesterol, high whatever food, fatty food, all that kind of stuff, it literally impacts my emotions, right? And so eating healthy foods, eating light foods, eating at a consistent pattern where my body and my brain can relax because they know something else is coming. Those small bites consistently, all those kinds of things literally impact my emotions, allow me to be regulated. So again, looking at people, sometimes what you're dealing with is not really depression. What you're dealing with is someone who's hungry. And so just feeding folk can help to resolve some of that. My wife is an elementary school counselor, and before this year, she had been a middle school counselor for as long as I've known her. and much of our married life. And so one of the things that she is very clear on is that she can tell if a kid is going to have a bad day or a good day by asking them one question. Did you have breakfast? Did you have breakfast? That one question for her helps her to know whether a kid is going to have a bad day or a good day. Because again, eating is so important to our emotions. And so again, as we think about how we regulate our system, are you eating? Are you eating well? And are you eating consistently? Specifically when you're dealing with stuff that you know is traumatic, right? I can't tell you how many meetings I've gone to, knowing there's going to be conflict, knowing it's going to be crazy, right? And the people who set the meeting up in the meeting, they've got coffee and pastries. So they've got caffeine and sugar. Right? So you 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 want us to kumbaya, and you got all the stimulants going, right? Right. So just knowing how to eat well thoroughly will impact your emotions. Okay, 2 more days. Sixth day, God creates community, right? God says in Genesis 1 and 26, let us make mankind or humankind in our image, right? God creates community. What we know is that community helps us to define our identity. It provides safety. It provides a resolve, and it also provides mirrors, right? Community, being with folk. We were not designed to be isolated, to be solo. We were made to be in community. And so finding your community, finding your people becomes critical. Some of you were with me when I was at your annual conference or have been with me in some other stuff. And so you know that my community is absolutely Jeep people, right? Right. You know that I'm a Jeep Wrangler enthusiast, and so we go off-roading. We're part of Jeep clubs. We go on rides together. My community are Jeep people, and so I love the Lord. I love the church, but I can't wait to leave Sunday afternoon to go ride out in my Jeep, take the top off and just hang out, right? Finding community becomes critical, right? Whether it's a Bible study community or a knitting community or a music community or wherever, all those pieces help to keep you regulated in the midst of whatever you're experiencing. I can sit through 10,000 PPRC meetings, right? Because I know that as soon as it's done, I'm gonna go get my Jeep. Right, right, right. So having community becomes critical, right? That's day 6. Here's day 7, and then we'll pause and then take our test. Not well, we gotta move a little faster. So here's day 7. Day 7, when God rested from all of God's work, Genesis 2 and 2. Everything you've heard me say up to now, from turning the lights on to getting fresh oxygen, to eating right, to finding community, to getting fresh sunlight, to finding good food, all those things. Without this 7th day, mean nothing. God designed us to rest, and to begin from rest, right? Not to just work ourselves out until we have nothing left, but to start from a position of rest. When God rested on the 7th day, everything that God had created rested with God, right? And so the world is created and starts out of the rest of God, the rest of God as a pattern for us that we should create things and then rest, right? Not just do and do and do and go and go and go, but God shows us the pattern in creation. Yeah, God created a lot of stuff and then he went to bed. God, God rested, right? So everything starts from rest. And so it's a pattern for us to follow in order to stay regulated, while we might have great ideas and we might have great teams and there might be great motivation behind getting something done and doing stuff, it's equally as important for us as teams, for us as a church, for us as families, for us as couples, for us as individuals to rest, right? So that might mean fasting. That might mean doing some prayer time. That might mean simply closing the laptop and stepping back. That might be literally going to sleep and letting some hours come in between whatever it was we were planning in the actual manifestation or activation of it. But rest is a critical component for us staying regulated in the midst of what we're experiencing. I hope that's helpful. I hope that's helpful. So I've got about 10 minutes left before we're done. And so I want to test you all. Let me pull up my test. This is your test. Let's see. Let's see how we do. 14 questions. Here's the first question. Here's the first question. Isolated pastors struggle with identity and purpose. What does Made in Our Image, and this is 126, teach about wellness? Is it uh, sunlight exposure? Is it community provides identity? Is it good food versus emotional distress? Is it rest encourages healthy unplugging?
6.
B.
B.
B? Okay, let's see. Very good. Okay. All right, number 2. A new pastor feels unsafe and unseen in their role. Which creation key addresses relational needs? Rest, community, light, or food?
B.
B?
B.
B.
All right. All right. 2 for 2.
I said food's one that makes you feel good.
I think you
All
should
right, Bur-
feed your pastor, though. I think feeding your pastor, Dr. Bell, is important.
I think it is too.
Sounds like a cake to me.
I've seen it make a pastor feel happier.
I think it's very important. All right, question number 3. Burnout ministry leaders remain consistently connected to technology. What does Genesis 2 and 2 model for grace?
C.
C.
And
Or
let me
B.
just pause right here. Encourage your pastor to do C.
Helen Brown
Encourage your pastor.
Yep.
Very good.
were all these people, including patients, just spilling their ever-loving guts.
Ministry.
Shall
I hear some. Is that someone speaking, or is that a TV or something?
I don't know who these people are except for Richard.
It must be a TV.
I'm
Okay.
going with D.
You said
Oh.
B.
Are you on the question?
Yeah, D like in David.
D.
Yeah, D.
D. Okay. I'm sorry. I was distracted by something. Okay.
And I was
D.
distracted by your distraction.
D is correct. All right, number 5. Ministry team members show signs of low mood during indoor conferences. What does Genesis 1 and 16 teach us about wellness?
C.
D.
Oh, yeah, C. Right, C.
Or D.
Yeah. Well, this one's a trick one because it could be all 3.
Right.
Community provides.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, we're halfway there. Leaders plan a church garden project for mental health benefits. What biblical creation principle supports this?
A.
D.
D. Like all to me.
Oh, yeah, D.
Very good. And yes, it could have been all. Some of these are Jeopardy kind of questions. Fresh air. A pastor wants to improve the worship team's energy and mood. Which creation principle from the vault applies?
Opening the windows or spending time outdoors. B.
Yes, ma'am.
D. D.
D. D.
D.
Are you all saying B or D?
D.
D is in David.
Very good. Very good. All right, we're almost there. A pastor notices congregation members seem mentally foggy and less engaged during morning services. What creation key principle could help?
A.
A.
D.
Increase night.
D like in
A.
David.
I say
C.
A.
I say A.
A. A.
Okay, I hear a lot of A's. A is correct.
I'd go with D, make him eat.
He said, make them eat. Listen,
During the
food is always food is
Before the
always the right
service.
answer. All right. A counseling ministry wants to add therapeutic outdoor activities. What does science reveal about dry ground?
A.
A.
A. A.
Yeah,
Oh.
very good. All right, 4 more. Ministry team shows signs of hysteria and emotional instability, which could be any Sunday out of the year. Which creation principle addresses nutritional impact?
C.
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 Yes, very good. All right, a pastor wants to schedule outdoor prayer walks for mental health. Which creation key offers scientific backing?
C.
C.
A.
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 All of them.
All of the above. Yeah. Oh no.
Oh.
The answer was D, sunlight.
Oh.
It's set in the sky to boost vitamin D and serotonin.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's true.
Okay.
Okay. 2 more. We're all right. I'll take 90%. Church staff working in windowless offices report feeling tired and low mood. What does Genesis 1:8 teach us about wellness?
D. Light.
D.
Light.
B, fresh air.
D.
B.
D is in Bob.
It was B as in, yep, B as in Bob, fresh air. Things are looking a little hairy now, guys. We gotta pull this together. I hate to have to go through this whole presentation again. A pastor needs to teach Sabbath principles with scientific support. What does the Seventh-day creation key offer?
Rest.
C.
C.
C. C.
Okay,
All right,
Yeah.
very good. We're back on the right track. Okay, last one. We got to get this one. This is for all the marbles. We get this one. This makes up for the 2 we lost. Here we go. A leader notices irritability and emotional distress among fasting congregation members. What does Genesis 1:28 remind us?
B.
B.
B. B.
Prolonged.
Very good. Very, very
Oh
good.
my God.
Very good. 80,
Roll that out.
86%.
That's a B.
We'll
We'll
take
take
86.
it.
We'll take a B. We'll take a B. But I hope that, and I'm gonna turn this back over to Amy. I hope this has been helpful to show you it doesn't take,
When's our next
it's
one?
not complicated, right? Sometimes it's as simple as lifting your hands or lifting your staff and stretching out your hands. Sometimes it's as simple as just intentionally breathing. Sometimes it's as simple as finding good folk that you can laugh with and just have fun with, good food that you can eat, right? Or just getting outside and getting your hands your hands and the feet in the dirt. God provides us with these simple tools and resources so that we can stay regulated, so that we can experience all that God has for us. And again, the importance of this is not just for you or for me, but it's for all the folk who are following, who are coming alongside us. So us getting regulated helps them to be able to get regulated. Right, us getting regulated and enacting these simple tools helps to give them some resources they may not be aware of, and so that again becomes the importance of this presentation and really, in my opinion, the importance of this moment as we look at what's happening all throughout our nation, right? The question I'm asking all of our leaders and all of our newscasters and reporters, the question I'm asking, and I'll end it here with this is, are you breathing? Are you breathing? So in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Bell. And can I add just one other little tidbit there? As I was thinking about you talking about us asking, have you taken a breath? I was thinking about, believe it or not, I'm in meetings, heated meetings often. And I think about the delivery that, we're being trained that now we know all of these things that are shared with us in Genesis and that are scientifically backed are good for helping us regulate our bodies. But I want to just remind us all that it doesn't need to be weaponized. It doesn't need to be calling someone out and saying, you need to take a breath. That this is something that in a meeting that maybe you say, can we all take a break? Can we take a break? And not, you need to take a break, because that can cause more trauma and drama than any of us ever asked for. And so I just thought I wanted to share that little bit of wisdom there, that it's always a good idea to ask and say, can we, instead of saying, can you, or can he or she or they take a breath? That we always need to ask and say, can we collectively take a breath? So anyway. Friends, thank you again for being with us tonight. I pulled up my calendar. Yes, we will gather again on Monday, November the 3rd, and we'll use the same Zoom link. So you can save it from this email and put it on your calendar if you want to, but I'll send it out again just in case. And also know that if people are still interested, or if you know of somebody who missed this one, we will be sending out the recording again, and that people are free to join, and yeah, you'll be hearing from me soon. So thank you all, and have a blessed night.